No limits. Just purpose.
I've been sitting with this one for a while, longer than the others, honestly, because this one required more, to be honest, in a way the other episodes didn't quite asking me the same way. And I think you can feel when somebody is about to say something real versus when they're about to perform something real. And I don't want this to be a performance. So let me just talk. This isn't the story of who I was. Not anymore. Because who I was already, excuse me, because who I was already, I guess I'm trying to say he already had his time. He had his reasons. He had his pain. He had his survival. He had his reaction. Excuse me. And I'm not here to act like I don't understand him, because I do. I understand why he moved the way he moved. I understand why he protected himself the way he did. I understand why he became hard in places he probably should have stayed soft. But this episode isn't about defending him. It's about outgrowing him. This is the story of who I'm becoming. The man I should have been. The man I always needed to be. The man my children deserve to see. The man my future needs me to become. And today, I'm choosing him. I keep hearing people say becoming like it's something exciting, like it's a glow up, like it's a moment where everything clicks and suddenly you're elevated. But becoming doesn't feel like that to me. It feels like confrontation, like standing in a room alone with the parts of myself I can't blame on anybody else anymore. I'm not who I was. I know that. I can feel the distance between me and some of the choices I used to make. I can feel the pause where an old reaction used to live. But I'm not who I'm engineering myself to be yet either. I'm in that space between. And in that space, it's exposing. Because when you're surviving, you don't really have time to look at yourself. You're just moving, just managing, just getting through the next day. And survival gives you an excuse not to examine what you're doing while you're doing it. See, being in that mode, survival is loud. It fills all the space. And when it's the only mode you know, it starts to feel like identity. Like you're not a man who's surviving. You're just a man. And this is just how men are. The pressure, the distance, the walls you build, the reactions, the silence. All of it starts feeling normal. But then it gets quiet. Maybe you made it through something hard. Maybe something finally settled. Maybe you just stopped running long enough to breathe. And in the first real moment of stillness, you look around at your own life and don't fully recognize the man who's been living it. It's not shame exactly. It's more like clarity arriving late. Maybe too late to fix everything, but not too late to change what happens next. And that's where becoming got real for me. Because it's easy to say you want to be a better man. It's harder to admit the ways you've been immature, the ways you've been reactive, defensive, prideful, the way your tone changes when you feel challenged, the way you shut down instead of saying what actually needs to be said, the way you can give patience to people outside your house and somehow have less of it left for the people closest to you, the way you want grace extended to you but hesitate before you give it first. And once you know something about yourself that clearly, you can't pretend you don't see it. Sure, you can avoid it. You can distract yourself from it. You can justify it, but you can't unsee it. And every time you choose the old pattern over something, every time you choose the old pattern after you've seen it, you know you're choosing it. That's heavier than ignorance, but it's also where responsibility begins. Because some of what shaped us wasn't our choice. Some of the material we were handed was damaged before we even knew we was carrying it. But some of it, if we're being honest, we damaged ourselves. And at some point, we have to hold both truths at the same time, without letting either one become an excuse. For a long time, I thought growth meant escaping who I was. Just getting far enough away from the old version of myself that I wouldn't have to deal with him anymore. But I realized something. If I'm still running from him, he's still deciding the direction. See, escaping is emotional. It's fueled by pain. It's reactive. It keeps your past running your present. Engineering is different. Engineering means I stop running and start building. I look honestly at where I am, not where I was, not the version of myself that I want people to think I am, where I actually am. And I build from there. That shift changed something in me. I stopped asking only, how do I get away from who I was? And started asking, who am I building? Because engineering requires honesty. And I can't design a stronger version of myself while pretending the weak parts don't exist. And I realized I needed standards. Something that could hold me accountable when my feelings don't. Something I can return to after I failed. Something that didn't move just because my emotions moved. That's where circle came from. Confidence, not arrogance, not ego. The belief that I can evolve beyond my defaults. Consistency, because discipline, not emotion, builds identity. Respect, because how I speak under pressure tells me more about my character than how I speak when everything is going my way. Responsibility, because the moment everything becomes somebody else's fault, I've handed them control over my growth. Commitment, because rebuilding yourself takes repetition, especially when you don't feel like doing it. And I believe the most important is love. Not just something I say, something I practice. Control behavior, measured reactions, patience when pride wants control. CCRRCL, circle. That was the first layer. But the more I sat with it, the more I realized there was another layer underneath it. That also spells circle. CCRRCL, character, consistency, responsibility, restraint, courage, legacy. Character. That's facing myself without building a case for why I'm the exception. Consistency. Showing up regardless of my mood. Responsibility. Owning what belongs to me. Restraint. Deciding what gets out and what needs to be processed first. Not pretending I don't have feelings. Deciding what those feelings are allowed to do. Courage. Because choosing growth sounds beautiful until staying the same would be easier and nobody would blame you for it. And legacy. That's that L again. That's the most important of that other layer. Legacy. Because my children aren't watching my highlight reel. They're watching my defaults. That one quiets everything else down for me. Legacy. Because this was never just about me. And I want to tell you what becoming actually looks like day to day. Because we talk about growth in these big terms, and it sounds good. But that doesn't tell you what to do when you're already tired and somebody says something that used to send you sideways without thinking. Sometimes becoming looks like catching yourself mid-sentence and changing where the sentence was going. Sometimes it's choosing not to say the thing that will win the argument, but damage the relationship. Sometimes it's apologizing faster. Not because you're weak, because you're more interested in repair than keeping score. Sometimes it's hearing your own tone and realizing, I don't like how I sound right now. And you make the adjustment. Quietly. No announcement. No production. Just make the adjustment. Sometimes it's your child saying something small and you responding with patience you actually had to reach for. And then realizing, I reached for it. That's evidence. Not applause-worthy evidence. Not something everybody else is going to see. Just quiet evidence. The kind only you know happened. That's what becoming looks like from the inside. Small, private, repetitive, mostly unwitnessed. And I think some days I do it well. Some days the old version of me gets the wheel for a minute though. And sometimes I catch him fast. Sometimes I don't. And afterwards, I have to sit with that too. See, becoming means being honest about the days you didn't show up the way you wanted to. You don't only count the good days, you count all of them. And you keep going. Because the regret used to be the only teacher. You react first, feel bad later, I promise myself I'll do better. And you put that on repeat. That was the cycle. And I ran that cycle for years before I even had a name for it. Because when you're in it, it doesn't feel like a pattern. It feels like just responding to whatever keeps happening to you. But the pattern was me. That was hard to accept because accepting it fully meant I had to stop waiting for circumstances to change and start changing how I move through them. And that's a different kind of work. That's work you don't graduate from. You just get more honest about how far you still have to go while also being able to see how far you've come. And you hold those two things in the same hand without letting either one lie to you. The version of me I'm building isn't louder. He's steadier. He doesn't rush to prove himself. He doesn't need the last word. He responds slower. He thinks longer. He apologizes faster. He loves harder. And he expects less applause for doing all of it. Because the people who matter most aren't watching the performance. They're living with the pattern. And I think that's something we have to sit with. Some days becoming is lonely. Lonely in a way, not necessarily because people leave, but because the version of you that people got comfortable with isn't the version you're building anymore. And sometimes even you feel the distance. Distance from the habits that you knew you needed, they needed to go. Distance from the reactions that once felt like strength. Distance from the version of yourself who could blame everybody else and never have to look in the mirror. Excuse me. Growth creates separation. It has to. You can't become something new while holding perfectly on to everything old. And when I look back from episode 1 to now, I can finally see the path. Episode 1 was me opening the door, letting you know why I'm even doing this. Episode 2 was survival mode. Understanding how somebody can stay in protection so long they almost forget what peace feels like. Episode 3 was origin. Looking at what built me. You know, the environment, the pressure, the things I carried before I even knew I was carrying them. Episode 4 was realizing that some of the things that once protected me could eventually limit me if I refused to grow past them. Episode 5 was fatherhood. Because at some point this stopped being only about me. It became about what my children see, what they feel, what they inherit. And now, 6, becoming. The turning point. Where reflection becomes responsibility. Where I stop spending all my time explaining what happened and start showing what I'm building from it. Not because I figured everything out. I haven't. But I can finally see the pattern, the past, the survival, the responsibility, and the person I'm trying to build from all of that. This isn't the finish line. Like I said, it's the turning point. This is where the story becomes structure. And if you've been here from the beginning, or if this is the first time you ever listened to the Jones Effect, I want to welcome you into something, because you're not just watching me change. You're being invited to witness the process, the wins, the failures, the corrections, the discipline, the days I get it right, and the days I have to come back and tell you I didn't. That's the Jones effect, not perfection. Discipline, progress, becoming better than we were yesterday. Walking legacy. Striving for excellence without pretending excellence means perfection. Welcome to the circle. Confidence, consistency, respect, responsibility, commitment, and most importantly, love. That's not just something I say, something I'm trying to live. And if any part of this journey makes you look at your own life differently, then maybe you're becoming too. So welcome. Welcome to growth. Welcome to discipline. Welcome to the uncomfortable conversations. Welcome to the corrections. Welcome to becoming. I'm going to build brick by brick, decision by decision, moment by moment. Yeah. But before I leave you, there's something this whole episode made me think about. Because if a man is becoming, that means there was a version of him that needed work. And if there was a version of him that needed work, then I think we have to ask a question most people don't answer honestly. Not to judging, to understanding. Can a man be flawed and still be loving? Can he make bad decisions, have bad reactions, carry bad habits, and still deeply love his children? Can he be trying and still be hurting people in ways he doesn't fully see yet? Can a bad man be a good father? I'm not answering that tonight, because that question deserves its own conversation, and I don't want to rush it. Because some of us were raised by flawed men. Some of us weren't raised by men at all. Some of us had to learn manhood through absence, pain, survival, and whatever examples we can find. Some of us love flawed men. Some of us are flawed men. Most of us, all of us. Oh, we kidding. And some of us are trying with everything in us not to hand our children the same problems we had to survive. So I'm going to let that question sit. Can a bad man be a good father? Some of you thought about your father when I said that. Some of you thought about yourself. And some of you probably aren't sure which one hit harder. That's exactly why I have to go there. So if this conversation has been speaking to you, stay with me. Subscribe. Share this episode with somebody who might recognize themselves somewhere in it. Because where we're going next, we're going somewhere a lot of people feel, but don't say out loud. And remember this: becoming doesn't stop when this episode ends. It follows you home. It sits at the table with you. It shows up when you're tired, when you're frustrated, when somebody gets on your nerves, when you feel misunderstood, when your pride starts talking, When the old version of you reaches for the wheel again, that's when all this matters. Because the people closest to us aren't watching our highlight reels. Remember, they're living with their defaults. And maybe becoming is simply deciding our defaults can change. Quietly, honestly. This is the Jones effect. No limits, just purpose. Let's build.
Black people and brown people are the only group of people, and poor whites, who didn't use free enterprise and capitalism to set themselves free. Black people
Anytime I change my style, D drop.